Okay, so the topic for my presentation is environmental monitoring for a safe and sustainable indoor environment. I'm Georgios Giovanoulis, environmental expert from IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute. And I have a PhD in applied environmental science from Stockholm University. And I'm an assistant professor at the same time at the University of Thessaly in Greece. So the outline of my presentation today is that I will talk about how we manage to eliminate hazardous chemicals in Swedish schools. I will also talk about that regrettable substitutions of alternative chemicals, and I will talk about biotransformation and biodegradation predictions and about chemicals on the skin. So to welcome you at IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute, and you get a bit more familiar, we conduct research and consultant assignments on environmental and sustainability issues. You can find us in 6 places in Sweden, and we have several subsidiaries like EPD International. We have the BASTA online system, and we also have activities in China with the Chinese office and in India as well. So we do research from science to society, and R&D is the foundation of our operation. And we have a very wide range of expertise, and we work across the entire field of sustainability, and our research ranges from traditional environmental science to economics, behavioral science, and social science. All our projects are connected with the UN Sustainable Goals, and we bring science to reality and include all these global goals in our operations. You can find more information in the website of IVL. Now in our group, in the environmental chemistry group, we do environmental monitoring. We focus in the indoor environment and the human health, and we determine hazardous chemicals, and we focus in both volatile and semi-volatile organic compounds. And on the left, you can see like we take different type of media, we extract them, and then we have instruments, mass spectrometers, and then we do data analysis. We also have like toxicity testing. We have the effect testing with different type of assays, like we have the YES test to check the endocrine disruption effects, the microtox tests for general toxicity, and cell lines for toxicity and ecotoxicity. We also have like a fully equipped eDNA lab, environmental DNA, where we can confirm presence of protected species, biodiversity, map microbial communities, and screen for antimicrobial resistant genes. We also have, of course, modeling, like we do environmental fate modeling of chemicals, both in outdoor and indoor environment. And we also check the chemical properties, and we predict using the machine learning approach. So now back to how we eliminate hazardous chemicals in Swedish schools. We know that our young children spend a substantial part of their time in preschools. About 90% of our time in general is spent indoors. So hazardous chemicals that they are commonly found in indoor environments and in schools as well are BFRs, PFAS, the fluorinated substances, bisphenols, and like bisphenol A, we find chlorinated paraffins and phthalate esters, plasticizers, isothiazolinones. And to tell you the truth, for example, phthalates are recognized as major indoor contaminants, and nowadays EU has restricted their applications. So we have strict regulations about them. Also, bisphenols, they are endocrine disruptors, or PBDs, PFAS as well. and chlorinated paraffins, they are possibly carcinogenic to humans. So what tools we have in order to promote the environmental monitoring for a safe and sustainable indoor environment? As we said, we spend a lot of time, all of us indoors, so we check the indoor air quality, we take dust samples, we test materials from schools and apartments. We have like skin wipes, and of course we have the emission modeling, and we perform risk assessments. We apply this methodology both in living environment and the work environment, and always by following the 4 pillars of the SSBD, the safe and sustainable by design. So as you see here, we have been doing tests, like we can test materials in emission chambers, and then we test the emissions in air by target, suspect, and non-target screening, and then we link the air concentrations to the article emissions. Also, we see that we can use active and passive samplers, and we have a high resolution LCMS, and we also have like GC and LC triple quadruples. And here I would like to mention that we have done 2 multi assessments for organophosphate esters and also for plasticizers in the past within the 18 project that you saw us at the beginning. And it was led from Professor Stuart Harrod within the 18 project. And here, I mean, the Chemical Smart Press School, it was an initiative from Stockholm Stad where we did reduction of hazardous chemicals in schools by doing article substitution actions. So what we did, we came up with recommendations to the schools about phasing out plastic utensils, replacing old PVC floors, remove old couches that we knew that they had brominate flame retardants, get rid of electronics, throw away old mattresses, and many different actions that we knew that probably they're gonna reduce the hazardous chemicals in the school environment. So we went to several schools. I think it was about 20 schools, first at the 2015, and then after we applied the substitution actions, we went back in 2018. And as we see here in the left, all the hazardous chemicals with potential endocrine disruption properties, they were reduced between 25 to 75%. But at the same time, while the EDC were reduced, we saw that some new alternatives were increased. So also here we see that the PVC floor, in terms of phthalates, that they are nowadays restricted when we have a school with linoleum floor or other type of floors, the phthalate levels will lower in dust. So after this successful campaign with the reduction measures, we went back in 2021, and then we did another approach. We compared the effects of renovating a school, or doing the article substitution actions, or if we have a school that it was made from the beginning with safe and sustainable materials. Like as you see here in those 2 charts, on the left is the indoor air measurements that we did, and on the right is the dust. So PS1 is the newly built school, which had the lower levels because the materials were with safe and sustainable materials. And then if you compare with the renovated school, before we do the renovation, the levels were high, both in dust and in air, compared to the others. And then we went we went directly after the renovation and 1 year after the renovation, and we saw like a huge decrease in levels in air and dust. In dust, it wasn't that big, but in air, it was tremendous difference. And in PS3, you can see the school before and after the article substitution measures, like with the first project approach. And still we got like a reduce both in air and dust. And the conclusion was that even when we did the hazard quotient and the health assessment for this type of chemicals and the children that they go to the schools, we see similar trends like reducing exposure. So overall, construction of a new school with sustainable materials and renovation using similar sustainable materials is much better, but of course it's most costly solution. And also we see that phasing out articles and materials, despite it is easier to implement, but it also gave clear effects in the reduction of hazardous chemicals. So after that, and after seeing that new alternative chemicals start popping up and having larger concentrations when the restricted were reduced, we start investigating how to avoid the regrettable substitution of chemicals in indoor environments. Back in 2016, we did like a review article where we focus in phthalate esters and their alternative plasticizers. And we see in Sweden that after 2010, there was a huge increase in the production volumes of alternative plasticizers compared to the traditional phthalates, while you see that the restricted ones went down, the production volumes. At the same time, the annual global plastic production is increasing year by year. So we did like a literature review and we came up with all the possible different alternative plasticizers to phthalate esters. And we saw at the end that there is a reason of concern because we have high production volume chemicals and widespread use in consumer products. And they are not restricted. And they are allowed to be in close to human applications, including children's products and articles. So in the past, we have seen similar regrettable substitutions. For example, like the DDT was replaced with chlorpyrifos, which was a regrettable substitution, and several other examples like bisphenol A was with bisphenol S and other bisphenol analogs. So this year we published a new review, critical review, together with Dr. Quadir and his team, where we question this issue about regrettable substitution of alternative plasticizers. So, and what we see is that phthalates, they have a known toxicity and environmental risks. And of course, they are very well regulated at the moment, but the alternatives, they have unknown toxicity most of the time, and they have environmental risks that they are not identified, and they are unregulated, and the total volumes are increasing year by year. So there is a need, urgent need, for more research on toxicological profiles and environmental impacts in order to avoid a new regrettable substitution of phthalate esters with alternative plasticizers. So we also, in this paper, we presented a workflow of how to produce safe and green alternatives and safer plasticizers, and all the steps that you could follow. So in order to achieve that, the overview, as we said, is that there is an urgent need to do further research and create policy intervention to avoid global contamination and environmental and health risks. In order to do that, for example, one way is to perform degradation experiments that we have been doing at IVL. And for example, we take new alternative plasticizers. We tested the DEHA, the adipate, hexamoldins, and ATBC, a citrate, in different type of floors. When we know that there is a PVC with high concentration of this chemical inside, we did photodegradation experiments, and we see with wiping the floor how much of the chemical is released into the surrounding indoor environment. Also, we did aerobic biodegradation tests using wastewaters and the OECD test 309 and 314, where after we check for the biodegradation products, the transformation products of these chemicals, and we do suspect and non-target screening, and we do chemical oxidation experiments also. So all the results and the workflow of how to test a new chemical is presented in this new article in Emerging Contaminants, and that is published this year. And we have 3 different steps that you can see here in the diagram. So it's a validated method, and you can use it and test different alternative plasticizers in this case. Finally, another ongoing project that we have is the chemicals on skin, or where we do development and validation of the sampling methodology. And there we check for the human contact with hazardous chemicals with our skin, that it can cause occupational exposure and diseases with acute or chronic health effects and symptoms. So we test new sampling methods to measure skin exposure to such chemicals in mixtures. We characterize the occupational exposures via skin wipes, tapes, or gauze pads. We compare the occupational exposure limit values, perform complementary measurements and analysis, and we have, and this is the final product that we get, it's a sample kit readily available and easy to use. And of course, it is connected, as we said, to the UN Sustainable Goals 3 and 8. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and happy to participate in the discussion afterwards. Can you hear me?